the other day. She said, hello, hello, I'm talking to you, baby. Somebody call me. He come to tell me, say, yeah, he see you with Tomoibo. Tell me, are you crazy? Girl, are you foolish? Share your hope, I don't finish, oh. Wait till you do it, your coro. Girl, I know mother, you know that I know better. But my mom don't know that love don't care who you be, where you get from. Love don't care. Love don't care who you know, where till you get to. Love don't care. Papa called me, oh, just yesterday, yeah. He said, hello, hello, how you doing, baby? Your brother called me, he gonna tell me, say, yeah. He see you with Mr. John, tell me, are you crazy? Girl, are you foolish? Sheba, girl, I'll finish, oh. What till they do with the t-shirt? Girl, I'm your father, your opinion doesn't matter. But my papa don't know that love don't care who you be, where you get from. Love don't care. Love don't care who you know, where till you get to. Love don't care.
Hello, 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 hello. Good afternoon and welcome to a new season on Healthy Today. If you were enjoying the music, that was Love Don't Care by Simi. Good afternoon again and welcome to Healthy Today, a health education series brought to you by Health Innovate Plus, a social enterprise providing health education, humanitarian and health consultancy services, and powered by Ivy Kane, your child education partner. I'm your host, Dr. Emeka Kanebi, a medical doctor and public health practitioner. Just to thank our listeners for joining us live last week and also on other platforms, you are simply a blessing. If you missed our episodes, not to worry. You can listen, share, and download now on Spotify, Amazon Music, and Google Podcasts. Just get on the app and search Healthy Today, or better still, just use the link on our Instagram bio. Please follow us on Instagram at Health Innovate Plus. Great! It's episode 3 on our new season on Healthy Today, and we'll be talking about ironically immune. Ironically immune. So let's jump in. So, an irony can be described as a state of affairs or an event that seems deliberately contrary to what one expects, okay? And a person can be said to be immune when they're totally or partially resistant to a particular infectious disease, or better still, an infectious disease causing agent. Okay? Then you say somebody is immune, all right? But I've used this title to depict an interesting but unfortunate phenomenon as observed in a group of diseases called autoimmune diseases or autoimmune disorders. So, who is ready for some illumination? Let's go. So, let's talk about the immune system. All right. The immune system is a network, a system within systems. Okay. It's just right there, working to protect you from diseases. Normally, organs make up a system. So the way the body is, it's quite interesting, right? So um, s- cells make up tissues, right? So each cell makes up tissue. So if I have a group of cells around, let's say, the skin, then I could get a tissue. And then a group of tissues would make up an organ, right? So if I go into the heart, for example, there are several types of cells, there are several types of tissues, and that makes up an organ, right? And then groups of organs then make up a system. All right. So then I have a system like the cardiovascular system. So it's made up of the heart, blood vessels, and other things, right? And I could have the urinary system, and then I have the kidneys, and then I could have the bladder. I could have so many things within that system. In the immune system, remember I said organs make up systems. So in the immune system, there are organs, and some of them you've had an experience with, or your children, you've experienced some of them reacting with your children, right? So in the immune system, the organs you usually would see that play a role there are, for examples, the tonsils and the adenoids. They are usually located, they are glands located just at the back of the throat. They usually get swollen when you have a sore throat. And in children, some of you have had to take your children for a lot of procedures and a lot of going back for antibiotics because you have those organs, lodged there, and then they react when there's an infection. You have the thymus. So the thymus, a lot of you adults will not be familiar with the thymus. It usually disappears as you get older, but you can find that in children. It's usually at the base of the neck. All right. So it's also an organ in the immune system. And then you have the lymph nodes. Aha, everybody's familiar with the lymph nodes. So you know those that what causes that pain in your neck or in your armpits when you have a boil, that they get swollen and painful. That those are all organs. Or right there in your groin, towards your pelvis, that when you touch them, they get painful. When you perhaps have an injury on your lower limbs, towards your leg, those lymph nodes get swollen. And then you have the spleen. The spleen is a beautiful organ located in your tummy area. All right. So that is also a very interesting organ of the immune system. You also have the appendix. Ah, you guys love the appendix because you talk about it all the time. The appendix is part of the intestine, and so it's also in your belly, and it's also one of the organs of the immune system. And then you have your bone marrow. Remember the bone marrow? I talked about the bone marrow last week. So if you missed that episode, catch it, okay? Catch the episode Thicker Than Water for last week on Spotify. We talked about the bone marrow. So the bone marrow, remember I told you, produces cells, all right? So apart from the red blood cells, which we talked about last week, it also produces protective cells and the cells you find in the immune system. So great. So what happens in your immune system is that when there are foreign invaders, so I'm going to go a little dramatic. When there are foreign invaders such as bacteria, viruses, fungi, toxins, which break through the barriers of your body. So your body has a lot of protective barriers like your skin, mucous membranes in your mouth, your nose, your eyes. They're all protective barriers. But for some reason, when they're able to penetrate that barrier, okay, or if there are abnormal changes within your body, for some people, even when some cells, and we'll talk about that in another episode, some cells decide not to grow the way they're supposed to grow, like when you have cancers, right? All things being equal, you're supposed to mount an immune response against these to defend yourself from getting sick, or in another case, getting poisoned or getting a cancer. Your body is supposed to react, right? And that's why we don't fall sick all the time. Now, this system must be able, so these are the characteristics of the immune system. It must be able to recognize this foreign invader. It must say you are an enemy, right? Or if it's about changes in your cells, it must be able to say, this one is out of line. And for example, in my breast or in my prostate, these cells are not acting the way they should. And so they identify, recognize that abnormality or that foreign invader. They neutralize it. So, for example, in a poison, they go there and they neutralize it. And if it's like a bacterial virus, they fight it. They fight the invader. And I literally mean fight. And at the end of the day, they remove them from your body. Okay? So that is really very peculiar about these about your immune system, right? So what is the trigger? What is that alarm that gets your body to start responding? So anything that your body does not see as belonging to it can be a trigger. Anything, right? As long as your body says this is not from me, it will be a trigger to your alarm, to your immune system. And they're usually referred to as antigens. Remember from last week, antigens. And these are like markers or proteins or identifiers on cells. And they are antigens. And everything in your body and everything that tries to get into your body has them. All right? Just markers that says, hey, this is who I am. Remember? Okay, great. So when these antigens enter the body, these could be invaders, this could be toxins, poison, these could be abnormal, creation of cells that shouldn't be there. They're seen by the cells of the body, the ones in your immune system, the protective ones. We'll call them agents right now. The agents of your body, they see them. And some examples are like your white blood cells, and they're in different categories. One interesting one is called the NK cells. But trust me, the NK cells are not just NK for NK's sake. They are natural killer cells. Can you imagine? You have that in your body, natural killer cells. You have phagocytes, and these are eating cells. So they see something that should cripple the body and they eat them up, right? So you have these agents in your body right there to destroy. And then you also have your antibodies, but we'll talk about them later. All right. So they attach to this foreign invader. So think about it. They identify the foreign invader. They go and hold it, for lack of a better word. They go and glue to it, attach themselves to this, and then they see how it looks, and then they fight it. They fight it. And this is what triggers the whole process. That whole identifying, gluing, and then your immune system begins to act. Now, something interesting. If this is the first time it is encountering this enemy, the soldier cells, all the soldier cells I mentioned, your natural killer cells, your phagocytes, your white blood cells, and there are different groups, they just, I don't want to bore you with the names, but just all these groups, they gain a memory of the antigen. So if they've seen something before, they remember it. But if it's the first time, they fight it, but they retain like a memory card, right? Of how this antigen looks like, this foreign invader, and then how to fight it. It's a memory that your body stores. Isn't that incredible? So subsequently, when it comes in contact with the same enemy, it is swifter to act. So the number of time it would have taken, the duration of time it would have taken to identify, to glue, to kill, or neutralize, as the case may be, that invader, it will be shorter because it's seen this before. It's learned how to do this. It just attacks and destroys it much quicker. And that is why we say in kids, we want your children to build their immunity. What we're saying is that we want them to, because before they were born into this earth that is full of germs and all that, their cells don't have memory. Most of the memory their cells or that's retained in their body is usually from the mother, because some of the memory cells in the mother pass through the baby, and you can find a lot of them in breast milk. So that's why we tell mothers to breastfeed their babies, and they say that, oh, it boosts the baby's immunity. We ain't joking, because the memory cells are transferred to the baby when they suck because they don't have theirs. So the memory cells for catarrh, the virus that causes catarrh, the memory cells for the bacteria that causes certain infections, right, are all passed into the baby from breast milk, right, in form of antibodies because the baby doesn't have theirs. But as the baby continues to grow, it encounters what? Antigens. And then the body identifies it, learns how to fight it, and then it's able to subsequently deal with it. And then as they become adults, certain things don't just cripple them, and then they fight it better. Okay, great. So, what happens in a case where the cells in your body become an enemy? Isn't that's just counterintuitive, isn't it? However, that's the title, ironically immune. So just like the enemies and the poisons and the abnormal cells, your normal cells in your body, so your hair cells, your skin cells, your kidney cells, everything in your body is made up of cells. They all have antigens, right? Identifiers, markers that your fighter cells realize this is one of us. This is friend, so leave it alone. Look for the enemy. But because um, they are of self, they never trigger an immune response, right? They never trigger an immune response. However, there could be a glitch, there could be an aberration, there could be an abnormality in your immune system that it turns against itself and it begins to recognize self as foreign. And guess what? It fights and begins to kill itself. This, my friends, is the autoimmune response and the process you see in autoimmune disorders. So, simply put, an autoimmune disease or disorder is one in which the body's immune system attacks healthy cells, it attacks itself. A situational irony, isn't it? Wow. So, because this is a malfunction within the immune system, and the immune system has access to every cell, every tissue, every organ, and every system in your body, this disorder can affect every part of your body and eventually can lead to death. Guess what? There are over 80 different types of autoimmune disorders. And you know what? The symptoms and signs they are seen that you usually would see usually can point you to what system the body is against, your own body is fighting, okay? And the most common symptoms we usually would see could range from just fatigue, just being tired excessively, joint pain, skin problems. You know, these are very common. However, like I told you, it affects every system in your body. So some of the common ones making the rounds, you know, that some of you would encounter and say, what kind of disease is this? God forbid. This is wicked. This is just terrible. Some of you may have encountered one called lupus. All right. The full name is systemic lupus erythematosus, SLE, but most people just call it lupus. And just like the name SLE, systemic, in lupus, it's weird because the autoimmune response is against every system in the body. Weird, right? Just every system is affected. And then you have a type of variant of diabetes. So that's diabetes type 1. That is an autoimmune disease. I'm sure you didn't know that. Or what? I think you didn't know that, right? So the type 1, you see that start from a young age for some children that have diabetes. It's usually an autoimmune disorder. What happens there is that the body fighter cells now start fighting against an organ called the pancreas right there in your belly, destroying particular cells that should produce a hormone that should regulate your blood sugar. And it destroys the cells. That hormone called insulin can't regulate your blood sugar, and then you start having sugar abnormalities in your blood. All right. Another interesting one is rheumatoid arthritis. All right. So there are different types of arthritis. So we'll talk about that I'm sure later on in the season. But there's one called the rheumatoid, arthritis, and that is an autoimmune disorder whereby your body just fights all the joints in your body. So there are joint pains everywhere: the waist, the hip, the the shoulders, the knees, everywhere in the body, the ribs, all the joints where you have joints, shoulder joints, everything just gets attacked by your own cells. Then you have what we call celiac disease. So some of you may have seen on some food products saying that there's no gluten in this, right? So gluten free. And you think, oh my God, they're exaggerating. No. So in some people who have this autoimmune response, they have just some form of reaction to gluten products where their body cells, these fighter cells, start damaging their intestines when they come in contact with gluten. All right, so celiac disease, very, very interesting, right? And then you have multiple sclerosis. I know these are big names, but really fancy names, so I get to throw them out today. Multiple sclerosis, you see the body attacking its nerve cells, all right, and just damaging them. So people just come up with all sorts, paralysis, unexplained. And, for some of us who are, not too, medical and not science inclined, it takes something, oh, there's an attack on the person, but it could just be an autoimmune disorder. And you have psoriasis, all of a sudden lesions all around the skin. You have Graves' disease. What a terrible name, right? Grave disease. In grave disease, you just have a reaction, whereby the body attacks the cells of the thyroid. The thyroid is in your neck and it's supposed to regulate all your metabolic activities, things, everything. In fact, it's the powerhouse. The thyroid will talk about that, when you see people having a goiter. But this is an interesting goiter because it's not because of a deficiency, because most common goiters are from a nutritional deficiency of iodine. But in this case, you just have cells that go to the thyroid and just destroy the cells of the thyroid and will give you, thyroid-like symptoms of a goiter, That's interesting, right? So what causes autoimmune diseases? Again, I'm so sorry, but the cause or causes of these are unclear and unknown, you see? So science still has limitations. Isn't that interesting? It remains a mystery, and there is still ongoing work by scientists globally. However, interactions between the inherited genes and the uninherited, that's your environment, okay, have been associated with autoimmune disorders. So we found that, oh, if there's an autoimmune disorder in this family, it could be passed on. Or people who come in contact with certain things in their environment, for example, I mentioned gluten, and I'll talk about others, they tend to just develop these autoimmune disorders. But honestly, we still don't know what the real cause of autoimmune disorders are. So, also likewise, autoimmune diseases are common in certain gender. So, we've seen that, for example, lupus, very rarely do we see it in men. We usually see it a lot of times in females. Graves' disease, for example, the autoimmune thyroiditis, we find it more in women, for example. So some of them just have this association or predilection for females. And then some you see it in certain ethnicities and race. You see some in black people more than Europeans or Caucasians. Um, and then some associations have been with some chemicals, like people have contact with mercury, for example, or some pesticides. We've seen some in people with some poor nutrition, and an interesting one I came across whilst preparing today's episode was there's an autoimmune disorder that's associated with childhood poverty. Isn't that interesting, right? Yes. So, like people say, poverty is a disease. Well, literally, it is a disease. So awesome. That's all I have for you today on Healthy Today. I know you were itching for more, but we keep it short, we keep it sweet here on Healthy Today. So if you or someone around you has been having symptoms that seem confusing, has been treated severally, and has not shown much improvement, moving from one healthcare provider and one clinic to the other with no real solution, it just might be an autoimmune disorder. Just might be, okay? So you can always call us. We can discuss this. You could, Trust me, the doctors don't frown at people who mention something. So your doctor might not be thinking about something, but when you join a show like this, you could always just say, maybe at your next clinic visit, you just say, could it be autoimmune? And that could trigger something because you've gone back and back for that joint pain. They've said there's nothing on x-rays, there's nothing anywhere. It just might be autoimmune. Great. So our medical word for the week is antigen. Antigen, okay? And that is spelled Antigen. Antigen. An antigen is any substance that causes your immune system to produce antibodies against it, all right? Great. So let us vibe to antigens, okay? We're taking it soft, we're taking it smooth. So enjoy the music.
After all of the things where I don't do.
Come on now, just take it slow.
You suppose know by now.
Yes, come on.
Why they ask me if I miss you?
Yes.
No, they by my side. Give me, let's say I want.
Enjoy.
You suppose know by now.
Yes.
Say now only you will get my heart.
Come on.
No, you know go talk I no say you they think
Come on.
baby.
Baby. Yes. Oh, I hope you're moving your body. Come on. Yes. You you should know by now. Amazing, right? That was You Supposed to Know By Now by Bez, B-E-Z. You can, check it on Spotify and enjoy that music. Just good music, feel good music. Okay, great, excellent. So, doctor's orders: refractory symptoms, repeated misdiagnosis, and persistent visits to healthcare providers for the same group of symptoms. Think autoimmune disorders, okay? You have symptoms that are just coming back and coming back again, or you know somebody that's just been, back and in and out of hospital. They've treated everything. Repeated misdiagnosis. So it's this today, it's that tomorrow, but it's the same kind of symptoms. Think autoimmune disorders, okay? So those are my doctor's orders for today. Excellent. So let me say a quick prayer for you. Great. So, dear Lord, thank you for everyone listening on this broadcast now, and thank you for life and health. Oh, thank you for providing a defense for our bodies, our immune system. We pray that even when things go wrong, you are working behind the scenes to find solutions to keep us healthy. Help us to make healthier choices so we can enjoy a healthy life today. In Jesus' name, amen and amen. We have come to the end of this episode, and I hope it has been educative and fun for you as it has for me. Okay, so we're just before we wrap up. Remember, I told you my producer had told me that I'm going to give an opportunity for anyone who wants to speak. And then I'm just going to allow the first person who has something to say to come up. And this, you're going to be the first time. So just use the raise your hand button on your Zoom platform. If you have a question you want to ask, you're going to be live on Healthy Today. Isn't that exciting? So I'm just looking, the first hand I see, I'll give that opportunity to ask that question that's burning in your mind. So I'm looking. I'm not seeing any hand yet. But once I see a hand pop up before we close the show, I'm just waiting for that special person who's going to say, oh, yes, I want to say something. Don't be shy. Just raise your hand. And if you don't raise your hand, oh, yes, I see. Okay, that's a clap, but that might be a raised hand, Raphael. So great. So I can see one hand raised, Amazing. Where are you? Where are you? So I can see the hand raised. Oh, yeah. So it's Kate Kanabi. So great. So, Kate, go ahead. You can unmute and let's have hear your question. Kate Kanabi. Great, 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 great. You can unmute. Great, great, great. I'm sure you can unmute now. Okay, just give me a second so we can get you to unmute. All right. Just 1 second so we can get you to unmute and then you can speak. Great. Okay, great. So you can unmute now and let's hear you. Yes, go ahead, Kate Kanabi.
Okay, thank you so much. It's been really nice listening to this program all the time. It's not really a question regarding, I mean, what you taught. It's very clear, but I was wondering why the delays in starting the program. It's good to be on time. That's just an observation I wanted to raise. Thank you. Bye.
Awesome, awesome, Kate Kanabi. Thank you so much for that comment. So we had actually posted on the chat box that we really want to apologize that we didn't start today on time. We had a glitch with the link that we had set up, but this is a very valid comment. We do apologize, and we'll do our possible best to always be on schedule. Thank you so much. Very important question. Thank you so much, and good comment. So amazing. So I don't have another comment here. And so we'll do this again, same time next week. So I want you to enjoy yourself and enjoy the music today. So let's go. Come on now. So vibe to the music. I hope you had fun today. Remember to follow us on Instagram at Health Innovate Plus and send us a message if you have any questions for me and you couldn't ask on the show. Listen, download, and share this and previous episodes on Spotify, Amazon Music, and Google Podcasts. Remember, tell a human. All right, so we're going to be on Spotify in a few minutes. So see you same time next week. Thank you for joining, and let's vibe. Come on, thank you so much for joining. God bless you. Woo! Wow, Elliot Ozigbe, thank you for joining. Esther, always a pleasure. Franca, thank you so much, Pastor Mrs., for joining. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you, Kanabi Promise. Thank you, Mrs. Kate Kanabi. Thank you, Miss Elion. Always a pleasure to have you on the show. Mr. Paul, all the way from the United Kingdom. Thank you for joining. Mr. Raphael, thank you so much for being on the show. And the Zoom user, thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you, Ibe Kanabi. Thank you, Kanabi Uchenna. And thank you, Vera Ona, for joining the show. Thank you so much. It's just simply a pleasure. And I thank you so much. Thank you, Elliot, for your comment. Thank God. And thank God you didn't miss this. See you same time next week. God bless. Come on. Take care. Thank you for staying until the end of the show. Amazing. Yes. Come on. Yes, yes. Come on. Come on. Yes. Come on. Yes, yes, yes. Come on. Come on. Yes. Thank you. Just want to say thank you. Come on, come on. Yes, yes. Come on. Yes. Come on. Yes. Yes, 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 yes. Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Yes. Thank you. God bless you all for being on the show today. Really grateful. Yes. See you same time next week. It's healthy today.